نحمد ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمن بالخير اللهم صل وسلم على نبينا Muhammad Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. In the topic of oneness of Allah, the Kitab Tawhid, we are approaching the end, and we are studying polytheism. And in polytheism, we discussed its different forms, and today we will see polytheism in the light of the Quran. So Barakallah fi on all the ones, and from all these sessions, the previous sessions that we have, subhanallah, it's so amazing when this reality sinks in that we are from Allah and we are for Allah and we will go towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first and third is inevitable for all of us. It's everybody is coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and everybody is going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether they like it or not. The actual question that me and you need to ask is about our duration of our life, right? So go ahead and type, my life is going to be for Allah, if you are now by now convinced that yes, Allah is the one and I need to live a life of Tawheed, of submitting and submission to only and only one Allah, and living my life just to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us make this conscious decision as we go through, that my life is inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. Ameen ya rabbil alameen. So let us explore more about polytheism in the light of Quran so that we can solidify our belief and we can, look more to live by Tawheed and die by it, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the Shahada as the last words on our lips, and we make dua that Allahumma inni a'udhu bika an ushrika bika shay'an wa ana a'lamu bihi wa astaghfiruka lima la a'lam. Allah, protect us from shirk, any form that we are aware of it, and we seek forgiveness of any form that we are not even aware. So when we come to the Quran, subhanallah, there are some beautiful illustrations that make us understand the reality of polytheism. And the first illustration is of our beautiful, beautiful creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that teaches us so many things. Maybe earlier we have not looked at it in this way, but how many of us have seen a spider web? Go ahead and type on that. Yes, we have seen this masterpiece, how diligently he works and he creates this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ كَمَثَلِ الْأَنكَبُوتِ اتَّخَذْتُ بَيْتًا وَإِنَّ أَوْحَنَ الْبُيُوتِ لَبَيْتُ الْأَنكَبُوتِ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. The parable of those who take protectors other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that of the spider. Spider is known as Ankabut. There's a surah on that too. Who builds to itself a house, but truly the flimsiest of houses is the spider's houses, if they but only knew, right? How many of us have, removed these spider houses many a times, just a wave, right? And it goes, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. And today we have the World Wide Web also, right? Just consumes us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us another parable, and that is another very familiar creation which many people don't even give second thought, and that is that, O mankind, there is Ya ayyuhan nas duriba mathalun fastami'u lahu innal lazina tad'una min dunillahi lan yakhluqu dhubaba ولو اجتمعوا له وإن يسلبهم الذباب شيئا لا يستنقذوه منه ضعف الطالب والمطلوب ما قدر الله حق قدره إن الله لقوي عزيز. These are words highlighting, ما قدر الله حق قدره. O man, here is a parable for you. Listen to it. Those on whom besides Allah you call cannot even create a fly. Think about it. Just one fly. If they even put together all the resources, they cannot. If they all met together for the purpose, and if the fly should snatch away anything from them, they would have no power to release it from the fly. Subhanallah. Nothing they can take away, right? And feeble are those who petition, and those whom they petition, they do not have right estimate of Allah, for Allah is powerful and almighty. Have you ever experienced a fly sitting going around you, right? You're trying to catch it and it just, flies away before even your hand gets there. Subhanallah. So if you just study this amazing creation of Allah SWT today, just go ahead, Google on mosquitoes, on the zubaba, and you'll be like, wow, how much eyes they have, what kind of sensors Allah SWT has put in there. It's so incredible. In the kingdom of Allah SWT, there is so many amazing creations created, and definitely wama qadarullah haqqa qadrihi, we have not estimated, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us realize it. Now, وَالَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ لَا يَسْتَجِيبُونَ لَهُم بِشَيْءٍ إِلَّا كَبَاسِطِ كَفَّيْهِ إِلَى الْمَاءِ لِيَبْلُغَ فَاهُ وَمَا هُوَ بِبَالِغِهِ وَمَا دُعَاءُ الْكَافِرِينَ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Ra'd in verse number 14, to him is due the true prayer. Any others that they call upon besides him, hear them no more than if they were to stretch forth their hands for water to reach their mouths, but it reaches them not, for the prayer of those without faith is nothing but vain prayer. Subhanallah. It's just like, like when people make partners, they go to these places and they try to make dua over there. They, put so many, things and give it in their way. But it's just like if you have your hands stretched out, the palms are stretched out, and you're trying to fill it with water. Do you think you're going to capture any water in there? It's just going to fall down. Subhanallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us that we do this yastajibuna, we call out to the right one, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that whenever somebody calls out to me, that inni qareeb, I am near. Sometimes, there's something on our mind, right? And something is happening, or we're going through and we go here and there, and God knows what we do, right? So we try to reach out to so many places. But we forget the easiest, which is to reach out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? It's just like I want you to imagine that, let's say you were driving on the highway and all of a sudden your car broke down. What are you going to do? The first thing, what you're going to do? Anybody wants to share? What is the first thing which will come into your mind, and what are you going to do? The car just broke down. Yes, Sister Amna?
Broke down?
Yes.
Or accident?
No, not an accident. It's just like your gas ran out, or maybe you had a flat tire and you have to pull on the side of the highway. So what will you do? Sister Katila is saying I've called AAA, right? So what else? What do you think else comes to our mind? First thing that comes to our mind, the instinct. Yes.
The family?
Yes, excellent. Yes, call the family, and Sister Samra rightly said, call my husband, right? So the biggest helpline, like, you immediately think about it. So that's what majority of our instinct is. How many times the first thing we keep in mind is to just ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, you put me in trouble and you make it easy for me. You help me exit from that. And then, yes, you tap on all the resources that you have. So inshallah, let's think about that. Inshallah, let's think about this parable of this water. And from now on, no matter what happens, just take few minutes to ask Allah first. Allah, I am in this trouble. You help me at this time. The other day, one of a friend, her car broke down, and I was like, why didn't you call me? It's just very close by. I could have come and helped you fix it. And she was like, Subhanallah, there was as soon as the car stopped and she called the AAA, nobody showed up. Like the AAA guys actually called them back like 55 minutes back. But she said there was an unarmed police officer who just pulled up the car behind. He just walked over and he said, oh, you know what? There's a tire flat. I can help fix it up. So we don't know how things happen and how Allah sends help, and the angels, how what happens. But we all have experienced some form of the other. When we have reached out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have never been deprived, right? Alhamdulillah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that there is another parable, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us. And what is that? He gives you a parable from your own souls. ضَرَبَ لَكُم مَثَلًا مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُم. Write your own name. هل لكم مما ملكت أيمانكم من شركاء فيما رزقناكم فأنتم فيه سواء تخافونهم كخيفتكم أنفسكم كذلك نفصل الآيات لقوم يعقلون. Allah SWT gives you a parable from your own selves. Do you have partners among those whom you right hands possess to share as equals in the wealth we have bestowed on you? Do you fear them as you fear each other? Thus do we explain the signs in detail to people that understand. May Allah SWT make us of those who do understand, who do reflect, and they come to this conclusion that my Lord is only one Lord and I need to submit to Him, right? And Him alone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, about the parable of two men. a slave under the dominion of another. He has no power of any sort, and the other a man whom we have bestowed goodly favors from ourselves, and he spends thereof freely, privately and publicly. Are the two equal? What do you think would be your answer? Yes or no? And Allah SWT tells us, by no means praise to be Allah, but most of them not know. This is in Surah An-Nahl, verse number 75. So one person, he is spending in the way of Allah SWT day and night, and on the other side there's the other person. Do you think they're going to be equal? No, they're not going to be equal, right? So Allah SWT help us realize and help us submit to Allah SWT. And what will submission mean? Submission will mean that we remove any kind of shirk, anything that we used to do for anybody else, just to please anybody, or just to seek approval of somebody. Let's just remove it from our life and do whatever we can do just for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq for that. On the day of judgment, the angels, the prophets, the messengers of Allah, and the saints, and the virtuous will testify before the court of Allah against those polytheists who had treated them as partners of Allah. Subhanallah. So none of the good people invited people to themselves. Instead, their effort was always about connecting people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the people who make partners, their partners will be of no help to them on this day of judgment, right? When they make partners, like, if you think that some saint or, a holy person, they are going to come and save them. Like, let's say if sitting here, you think, oh, some teacher or scholar is going to come and save you on the day of judgment, then that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So what's happening there? Allah SWT gives us a glimpse from Surah Sabah, verse number 40 and 41. And the Yawma, the day, let us all visualize that day. And inshallah, much, and barakallah fi on your efforts to learn the deen, like strivers like you, I hope we look at this day with excitement, and we're looking forward to that day. When you have prepared for a day, then definitely you're excited that day comes. So وَيَوْمَ يَحْشُرُهُمْ, on the day he will gather them all together and say to the angels, was it you that these men used to worship? وَيَوْمَ يَحْشُرُهُمْ جَمِيعًا ثُمَّ يَقُولُ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ أَهَؤُلَاءِ إِيَّاكُمْ كَانُوا يَعْبُدُونَ قَالُوا سُبْحَانَكَ أَنْتَ وَلِيُّنَا مِنْ دُونِهِمْ بَلْ كَانَ يَعْبُدُونَ الْجِنَّ أَكْثَرُهُمْ بِهِمْ مُؤْمِنُونَ. They will say, glory be to you, you are our protector. Highlight these words, أَنْتَ وَلِيُّنَا. Not them, nay, but they worship the jinns. Most of them believed in them. Subhanallah. Today, if you look around consciously, you will find so many cults practicing this, and trying to capture some forces and things and whatnot happens in this world. Now, on the day when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will gather the messengers and ask them, what was the response you received from men to your teaching? They will say, we have no knowledge. It is you who knows in full what is hidden. Subhanallah. So think about this from Surah Ma'idah, verse number 109, that like even the messengers are being gathered. يَوْمَ يَجْمَعُ اللَّهُ الرُّسُلَ فَيَقُولُ مَاذَا أُجِبْتُمْ قَالُوا لَا عِلْمَ لَنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ عَلَّامُ الْغُيُوبِ. Subhanallah. So the job is just to convey, not convince, and they did their job very well. Then after that, people make partners, even made partners in them. Like Isa alayhi salam, he never asked people to call him the son of God. He only and only asked people to submit to Allah SWT. May Allah SWT help us take these ayahs, take these verses, and connect the people in search of truth, right? They are in search of truth, but it's just like mixed together with falsehood and presented to them. May Allah SWT make us of those who are able to take these ayahs and educate the masses out there, that what was the actual message. And in Surah Ma'idah, the same surah, in verse number 116 to 117, we see this in detail, that beware of the day when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, O Jesus, the son of Mary, وَإِذْ قَالَ اللَّهُ يَا عِيسَى ابْنَ مَرْيَمَ أَأَنْتَ قلت للناس اتخذوني وأمي إلهين من دون الله قال سبحانك ما يكون لي أن أقول ما ليس لي بحق إن كنت قلته فقد علمته تعلم ما في نفسي ولا أعلم ما في نفسك إنك أنت علام الغيوب ما قلت لهم إلا ما أمرتني به أن اعبدوا الله ربي وربكم وكنت عليهم شهيدا ما دمت فيهم فلما توفيتني كنت أنت الرقيب عليهم وأنت على كل شيء شهيد. May Allah SWT help us, come to a level where we can enjoy each and every word of this conversation. Subhanallah. Allah SWT is asking Isa alayhi salam, did you say to men, take me and my mother for two gods beside Allah? Right? The two out of the Trinity today. And he will say, glory be to you. Never could I say what I had no right to say. Had I said such a thing, you would have indeed known it. You know what is in my heart, though I know not what is in yours. For you know in full all that is hidden. Think about even the prophets, how humble they are. Never said I to them, or except that you did command me to say, to worship Allah, my Lord and your Lord. This is the message. You can highlight it. Take it to the world. He said, A'budullah, Rabbi wa Rabbakum. And I was a witness over them while I dwelt amongst them. When you did take me up, you was the watcher over them, and you are a witness to all things. Subhanallah. So same thing with the saints and those who are like scholars or who are at a higher level. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Furqan, verse number 17 and 18. وَيَوْمَ يَحْشُرُهُمْ وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ فَيَقُولُ أَأَنْتُمْ أَضْلَلْتُمْ عِبَادِي هَؤُلَاءِ أَمْ هُمْ ضَلُّوا السَّبِيلَ. The day He will gather them together as well as those whom they worship besides Allah. He will ask, was it you who led these my servants astray, or did they stray from the path themselves? They will say, glory be to you, Subhanaka. Not meant for us that we should take for protectors other besides you, but you did bestow on them and their fathers good things in life until they forgot the message, for they were a people destroyed. Let's take a moment and think about it. This word, nasu zikra. Nasu, from insan, like forgetful, right? And they forgot the reminder. Vakanu qawman bura. Allahumma la taj'alna minhum. May Allah not protect us from forgetting why we are here in this world to begin with. What is our purpose of life, right? So go ahead, who would like to write? What is our purpose of life? I hope you all remember that inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. That's our reality. We all came from Allah SWT, and that's we're all heading back. And Allah SWT reminds us through Surah Yunus, verse number 28 and 29. One day we'll gather them all together. Then we will say to those who join gods with us, to your place, and you and those you join as partners, we will separate them, and their partners will say, it was not us that you worship. Enough is Allah for a witness between us and you. We certainly knew nothing of your worship of us. Subhanallah. Right? يوم نحشرهم جميعا ثم نقول للذين أشركوا مكانكم أنتم وشركاؤكم فزيلنا بينهم وقال شركاؤهم ما كنتم إيانا تعبدون. So we can highlight these beautiful words. فَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ شَهِيدًا بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمْ. Sufficient is Allah as a witness between us and between you. This is like such a beautiful, when inshallah you read the tafsir of this ayahs, you will find that the end of a lot of disputes, you can finish your statements with this, as long as you convey the right thing. After that, Allah is witness between us and between you. This helps so much even in parenting and anything and everything else, that Allah is sufficient. Whatever is happening, Allah is sufficient as a witness, and we are, what you are doing with us, we are certainly unaware of that, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala It's really interesting in the Quran, and that's why, like whenever you fear, like, sometimes in terms of praise, people start praising or other things, just ask Allah that Allahumma inni a'udhu bika an ushrika bika wa ana a'lamu wa astaghfiruka lima la a'lam. So this is taught by the Prophet ﷺ, and whenever you feel like, anything about shirk, and add up your du'as and make du'as to protect from shirk. Now here in the Quran, Allah SWT, is commenting on those who are doing shirk, and look at how they have been commented on. Allahumma la taj'alna minhum, right? And this is really, really important. Reading this, just remember that, like, there is a deadline in our life. Just like, any project, any deliverable, anything has a deadline. We all have a deadline. So let's make sure that if there's anything which is bothering us, which is on our mind, and we think that this is, coming between us and in our path to Allah SWT, let's remove it. Why? Because we don't want to miss the deadline. And on the day of judgment, order will be passed. This is Surah Safat, verse number 22 to 26. Bring them up, it shall be said, the wrongdoers and their wives and the things they worship besides Allah, and lead them to the fire, the fierce fire. But stop them, for they must be asked. Allahu Akbar. Think about that. Pausing there. وَقِفُوهُمْ إِنَّهُمْ مَسْئُولُونَ مَا لَكُمْ لَا تَنَاصَرُونَ. What is the matter with you that you not help each other? Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah. Today, just in the names of families and pleasing each other, we want to continue celebrating birthdays and anniversaries, and magnifying our own souls and nafs. And even when the clear verses are in front of us, even when we are told the reality, we are like, oh yeah, sab kare, everybody's doing it, it's okay. What difference does it make? So here, look at this, when they will be stopped and they will be questioned. What is the matter with you that you're not being helped? So that is really, really important. That, and we don't know when is our deadline. We don't know how much moments do we have. So may Allah SWT help us, live the Tawheed and free ourselves from any kind of making partners. When polytheists will see the punishment, they will reject all that they used to associate with him. But their declaration in oneness of Allah will be of no use, because at that time it will be no use. Just like Fir'aun, when he was like, drowning, at that time he's saying, Allah just said, Al-an, now you accept. So فَلَمَّا رَأَوْا بَعْثَنَا قَالُوا آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَحْدَهُ وَكَفَرْنَا بِمَا كُنَّا بِهِ مُشْرِكِينَ. These are the words we need to say in this word. Highlight this. Amanna billahi. Just like, those two ayahs from Surah Baqarah, last two ayahs, they will suffice at the end of every night. I hope all of us say that. Go ahead and type one if we do read Surah Baqarah last verses before we go to bed. Those two, Amanna billahi. And those are the ones which are worth saying in this dunya, right? So Allah SWT tells us in Surah Ghafir, verse number 84 and 85, when they see our might, they said, we believe in Allah, the one God, and we reject the partners we used to join with them. But their professing the faith, when they actually saw our punishment, was not going to profit them. Such has been Allah's way of dealing with His servants from the most ancient times. And even thus did the rejectors of Allah lose utterly. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is inviting us day and night, like, to reflect and ponder through this Quran. So let's say it consciously, like, Allahu Rabbi la ushriku bi shay'a. Allah, Allah, you are my Lord. I do not associate anything as partner with Him. And Allah, if I have made any mistakes, help me, rectify them. Help me replace them. Help me replace my sayyi'at with hasanat, and clear my account before I meet you. Now, invitation of Holy Quran is there. The Quran keeps inviting us to reflect and ponder. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah An'am, who is that delivers you from the dark recesses of land and sea when you call upon Him in humility and in secret? If He only delivers us from these dangers, we shall truly show our gratitude. Allahu Akbar. And it is Allah that delivers you from these and all other distresses, and yet you worship false gods. Subhanallah. Surah Al-An'am, verse number 63, 64. This even, this happens with me so much. Like even right now we were discussing, like, if this is a good time to be with our parents, and since we are all remote, we can, be with them and work from there. So I was thinking, whenever I think of an aeroplane flight or, a travel, it just, reminds of the akhirah. It's like reminds of your final journey. You don't know if you're going to come back, or you never know every day, obviously, but when you're on a flight, it's like, I'm like, okay, Allah SWT, if you let me touch down, then I'll be a good person. And then you call to Allah SWT throughout the journey, you're making so much du'as and everything. And once you touches down, it's like, okay. And then we kind of forget. It's like so interesting how Allah SWT captures us here. May Allah SWT help us lead mindful lives throughout, day and night, inshallah. And Allah SWT is asking in Surah Al-Mu'minun, verse number 84 to 85, 89, that say, whom belong the earth and all beings therein? Go ahead and you can write the answer. Limanil ardu wa man fiha in kuntum ta'lamun. Rabbi zidni ilma, may Allah increase us in knowledge. And what will they say? They will say Allah. And yet will you not receive admonition? And they will say, who is the Lord of the seven heavens and the Lord of the mighty throne? They will say, they belong to Allah. Say, will you not then fear? Say, who is it in whose hands is the sovereignty of all things, who protects all but is not protected of any? Say, if you know, they will say, it belongs to Allah. Say, then how are you deluded? Right? So even if you pick up a dollar today, a dollar bill today, what does it say on the top? Can anybody answer? What does it say on the dollar bill even today?
In God we trust.
Excellent, mashallah, barakallah fi. Yes, it says in God we trust. So this is exactly what is here. They accept that the earth and the heavens and everything belongs to Allah. But when it comes to following Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's where the problem comes, right? So it's very, very important that we all turn to Allah before we return to Him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us in Surah Anbiya, verse number 21 to 22, that or they have taken for worship gods from earth who can raise the dead. If there were in the heavens and the earth other gods beside Allah, they would have been ruined in both. But glory be to Allah, Subhanallahi Rabbil Arshi Amma Yasifun, the Lord of the throne above that they attribute to Him. And in Surah Namal, verse number 61, that or who has made the earth firm to live in, made rivers in its midst, set there on mountains immovable, and made a separating bar between the two seas? Can there be another God besides Allah? Nay, most of them know not. I'm sure you must have seen those videos where those two rivers are flowing. Go ahead and type yes, that yes, you have seen it, where the two rivers are flowing, yet they do not meet, right? So, subhanallah, reading this, Rabbil Arshi Amma Yasifun, Allah's beautiful throne, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reunite us, under the shade of His throne, just because we used to love each other for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So reading through all this, that's the final reminder I would like to take for myself, and I hope you take for yourself too, that let us submit so that we don't have to regret, right, later. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with us, inshallah. In our next setting, we will see the polytheism in the light of the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us share these, learn and act on it. A reminder for myself and all of us that wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. By time mankind is in loss except for those who believe, who did the righteous deeds, who reminded each other of truth, and who reminded each other of sabr. So, Jazakumullah khair. If there's any question, otherwise, inshallah, we will stop here and we'll meet next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.